back to our study called More Precious Than Jewels. This is Ryder Ray. Now, we've been studying this passage. The first lesson, last time, we looked at the idea of finding and getting wisdom. You have to find it, you have to get it. Wisdom, understanding, these are the things you need to get. It's like going into mining and stuff out. It's precious, and you trade for wisdom. You take what you get, you trade it out, the lesser things for the greater thing. You get all these extra stuff, and then you're going to trade to get that. It's precious. You have to be opportunistic with wisdom. If it's there, you take it, right? You're not just going to leave it in the ground. You're going to go right after it. And you have to fight to keep it. We do that with gold and silver and jewels. We'll protect that. We'll make sure that no one steals it from us. Same thing with wisdom. We want that stolen from us. We don't want to disappear on us just because we're lazy. We don't want to be lazy about that kind of stuff. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our thoughts and making sure that we have wisdom. And that's the main idea here. Now we're moving on. We're going to take a look at the next section of Proverbs chapter 3 here. And so the next part we're going to really talk about here is really the rest of it. Is really what you get, right? It's precious. Well, how is it precious? That's what we're going to talk about. So it says here that in verse 16, long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. In her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. The Lord by wisdom founded the earth. By understanding he established the heavens. By his knowledge the deeps broke open. The clouds dropped down the dew. So first, what do we find? First, she gives transcendent blessings. What does that mean? It means her blessings go beyond anything on this earth. They transcend earth. They transcend the physical to something beyond really anything we can think of. So wisdom can't be bought with money. So it transcends what you can do with money. You can't buy wisdom, right? You can buy an education, but you can't buy wisdom, right? You know what I'm talking about. You run into people that have doctorates and all this kind of stuff, and they're the most foolish people in the world. You've seen that. You've seen people do that. They might be the most wealthy people physically, but yet their wisdom is foolishness. Even some of the smartest minds that we've had, they've been fools morally. Even the way they think, it may be in their particular field they're good, but everywhere else they're a fool because they haven't bought wisdom. They bought a certain piece of understanding, but they don't have wisdom. They don't have God's understanding. They bought a cheap knockoff of wisdom and understanding. So it's a version, but it's a corrupted and evil version. It is a weak throwaway kind of version. So you cannot be bought with money. Wisdom and understanding can't be bought with money. Job 28:15 says, it cannot be bought for gold, and silver cannot be weighed as its price. That's what he's talking about wisdom here. So you can't buy it. Man doesn't know its worth, and it's not found in the living. So where can heaven be found? Well, or where can wisdom be found? It's not, man doesn't know. Man can't find its worth. It's not found here. It's not in hell. It's not in the deep of the sea. It cannot be bought for gold. It can't be valued in the gold of Ophir and precious onyx or sapphire. Gold and glass cannot equal it, nor can it be exchanged for jewels of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or of crystal. The price of wisdom is above pearls. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be valued in pure gold. So there's nothing, the most precious metals and jewels, whatever you can think of, corals or whatever, the most valuable and even, the most precious of thing on earth cannot equal wisdom. It goes beyond that. So money cannot replace the blessing of wisdom. You can't do it. You can have lots of money, but if you're not wise, it doesn't really matter. And the lack of money does not replace the blessing of wisdom either. Right? Because we'll often go off to the other side. Well, I don't really, if I don't have money, it doesn't replace, the lack of money doesn't replace the blessing of wisdom either. So it's not both ways. It's like, well, if I get rid of all my money, then I'll be blessed. No. Wisdom is the thing that you need to get. With the rich young ruler, was it the fact that he had money, or was that his money was his idol? That's the problem. Money can be the root of all kinds of evil. It's the root of all kinds of evil. But is it evil in itself? No, of course not. Now, you need money. That's how the world works. You buy and sell. God understands that. And so money can be a root of evil because it causes so many, coveting and cheating and stealing, and all these things kind of come from that. And the root is, the idea of money, the lack or the abundance thereof. But what's ultimately the problem within the person is the lack of wisdom. They don't know how to use the money, or they don't, because they don't have it. So the blessing of wisdom is so much more worth than money. And just getting rid of money doesn't mean you'll have more wisdom. It doesn't replace the blessing of wisdom. No, the blessing of wisdom is far more valuable. And you can be wise and have lots of money. You can be wise and have no money. You can be wise and get rid of all your money, or you can be wise and get and obtain money. Job was the blameless man on earth, and he was probably one of the most wealthy ones too, financially. He lost it all, but then God gave him it all back again. And the wisdom came when he said, God giveth and taketh away. There's the wisdom. That was more precious than anything Job had financially. And so it didn't replace it. It didn't, when he had lack of money, it didn't make him more blessed either, right? So that's not the determining factor, nor is it really a thermometer to tell us how blessed I am, right? So only wisdom brings blessings and joys that money cannot buy. Only wisdom can do that. Sometimes we say, well, money or like happiness is more. No, wisdom is more valuable than happiness. You can gain happiness from wisdom. That's true. And Proverbs will talk about that too. But wisdom is more valuable than all that. Wisdom, understanding, knowledge, all together, that is more valuable than anything else. And so we as Christians need to remember that we should be seeking wisdom, seeking the wisdom of God, hearing what he has to say, thinking his thoughts after him is what they used to say. So that's what we need to do. We need to think God's thoughts after him. That is more precious than anything else. Knowing Christ and him crucified. And Paul talked about knowing him. Knowing Jesus was more precious than him. Having a knowing and understanding and a wisdom that comes from knowing Christ who is our wisdom. That's what it says. And that's more valuable than anything else. All right, so wisdom gives transcendent blessings here. And you look at what she's giving here. And she gives real blessings, right? She's giving real blessings, long life. So she gives long life. Having wisdom puts you in the best place to have a long life and to have joy in it, really. Sometimes when we talk about long life, it means, like a life that is, not that you're just alive, like breathing. It's like life. You have life within you. Like we talk about eternal life. Eternal life is not just that you live forever, not die. The idea is that you have a life that is truly living. It's what, life really is all about. So that's the idea. So it has both those ideas kind of baked into that, is that you'll have a long life, but also joy. There's an abundance there. She also gives in her left hand are riches and honor. So in the right hand, she has the long life. In the left hand, she's giving out riches and honor. She's handing these out. Here, I'm wisdom. Take these things from me. And so wisdom puts you in the best place to have a godly wealth and to be most honored among people. It puts you in that place. Now, does it mean that you're guaranteed to always have that? No, because we look at the story of Job, that was the issue, right? The friends thought that if you were blessed by God, that if you were following God, if you were blameless before him, then you would always have these things. And that was the absolute, the danger of falling into that absolute. Because sometimes it is, and sometimes maybe not. Things change. God changes what he's doing in your life in different seasons of your life. So sometimes it means that you have the greatest riches and the greatest honor. Sometimes you're dishonored and maybe you have nothing. Joseph is the example of this. Job and Joseph. There's actually two people that are perfect stories for this, right? Job has blameless man. He loves the Lord. He's following God. Has all kinds of great stuff. Loses everything in a day. Then he finally loses his health. But then he gets it all back and more so, right? More than what he had before. Wisdom brings those things. It puts you in the right place. If you are going to dishonor the Lord, if you are going to shun his wisdom, then you should not expect long life. You might get it, yes, as Job points that out, yeah, but it is not guaranteed. And you might get riches and honor. That's true too. But, you're not guaranteed to have that. Now, God can give you riches and honor, and that would be not a blessing, but a curse to you, because to whom much is given, much is required. And so if you're not going to have the wisdom to submit yourself to the Lord, then you're just putting yourself into more harm. So the example of Joseph here is that, Joseph was a man of God, had wisdom, clearly, which he grew into that too. I mean, he didn't have wisdom at the beginning because he was kind of boasting about himself, but as he grew in wisdom and understanding, and he obtained that. Then he obtained riches and honor. Put him in that place to have riches and honor. Job the same way. God would not have blessed him if he didn't have the wisdom to shut his mouth when he did. And so that's the idea. Probably Job is the best example of this. So I think, Job is an awesome person to look at for this idea. And then you have the idea too of I'm just changing my notes here because I like Job rather than Joseph. Joseph can be good, but he kind of grows in wisdom. So if you're talking about growth, but the idea here, it's really, a lot of it is Job. Now the last point is wisdom gives a pleasant and peaceful way. That's the next part, right? Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. So wisdom puts you in the best place to lead a pleasant and peaceful life. Again, are these absolutes? No, I mean, they're stated in absolute, but they're, when Proverbs does this, where it uses the absolute for the relative, right? It's relatively speaking, yes. That would be almost, you should expect that. Now, will it always happen? Should you be disappointed when it doesn't happen? No. Should you? No, because you'll be like Job, who says, God gives and takes away. Shouldn't we expect both good and calamity from his hand? Well, of course we do. Yeah, we should. We should expect both those. We should expect that God would use suffering in our lives to help us, and to use easy times when our steps are washed with butter. We should we should expect both of those. But if you're going to follow wisdom, if you're going to trust in God's wisdom and listen to him, then you are in the place where you can receive those. Because if you're not, you should only expect discipline from the Lord. And hard discipline. And painful discipline. And in your ways, you shouldn't expect a peaceful way. You shouldn't expect pleasantness. You shouldn't expect riches and honor. You shouldn't expect long life. You should expect that he would take you from this world to spare you from causing yourself more damage. And to give you riches and honor, why would he do that if you're just going to dishonor him? And why would you expect a peaceful and pleasant way, and the path would be peace, if you are going against God? You shouldn't expect that at all. So the expectation here is that you should have those things if you're listening to the wisdom of God, right? You shouldn't expect those if you're not following the Lord. Now, he might give those to you, yes. He might remove the good things from you, yes, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. True. But you shouldn't expect that from him. Now, point number 3 is that wisdom also gives paradise. Look at what it says. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called blessed. The wisdom is the tree of life. She is a tree of life. Now, there's other places where we talk about the tree of life, right? Genesis 2:6, Revelation 2:7, and 22:2 talks about the tree of life. The tree of life was in the Garden of Eden. right? And that's where you find the mention of there, you eat from it, you live. And the same thing with Revelation 2:7 and 22:2, where it talks about the tree of life. All those who love God go there and eat from it, and they live forever. So that's the idea of the tree of life. And it says here that the wisdom is a tree of life. So if you go and you eat off the branches, you go and you eat from the fruit of this tree, you will live. You actually live forever. That's what wisdom is, right? Wisdom is a tree of life, planted in the garden amongst, even now, but the garden is full of weeds, and there's forest fires and everything else like that. But the tree of life is still planted there. You can still go to the Bible. You can still read the wisdom of God, and you still can gain from it, and you still can profit from it, and you can get all these good things. You can find paradise in the midst of hell, basically. So wisdom brings you as close to paradise as you can get on earth. If you follow wisdom, you do what it says, do what she says. You're selling everything you have to get what she has to offer. Then this is the closest you'll get to heaven on earth, if you do what she says. If you don't do what she says, because it's holiness. It's a life of holiness is what we're talking about. And so that's what heaven is like, living a life of holiness. If you do everything wisdom says, if you listen to all her commands, all of her proverbs, all of her psalms, all of she says in Ecclesiastes, and all that she says in the Song of Solomon, and wherever else you find the wisdom of God inscripturated, if you follow that, you will find paradise here on earth, as close as you can get. And finally, we see here that she also gives what God possesses, right? Because it says in 19:20, the Lord, by wisdom, by her, he founded the earth. By understanding, he established the heavens. By his knowledge. So understanding, wisdom, knowledge. These are all things that God used to do what? By wisdom, he made the heavens and earth. By wisdom and understanding and knowledge, he gives water to the earth. He created the water cycle. And what this is saying here is that you need to get this wisdom. By wisdom, God did these things. And he just told us, get the wisdom. Go get what God has. This is what you want. So wisdom gives us what God possesses. He uses wisdom, understanding, knowledge to create the earth, to create all the things on the earth. This is the knowledge of God. And what do? Humans take the knowledge and wisdom and understanding of God and like, oh, we're going to figure this out. We're going to find they call the one particle the God particle and all this kind of stuff. We're going to find out the quantum realm, and we're going to do all this stuff, and we're going to be so smart. And it's like, no, we're just, this is how God did everything. You're just figuring out what God did after him. But then you're not ascribing it to him. And so that's really evil and stupid. That's foolishness. You can figure out how all these things came together. You can figure out how everything works. But in the end, you still have to attribute everything and acknowledge him in all your ways. Right? Because it's by wisdom and understanding and knowledge that he created all this stuff. And we have access to that same thing. So I think we'll end there for today. So come back next time and we'll take a look at just a few thoughts of application to round out our time.